Kadosh Boker Or Masechet Nedarim Perek Shishi, the 6th chapter. Okay, we are now going to speak about a person that comes and he makes a neder, which is going to prohibit a certain amount of things. So it all depends on his lashon. So says the Mishnah, Hanoder mina mevushal mutar betzali uvshaluk. If somebody comes and he makes a neder, and he prohibits himself to the mevushal. What does it mean, mevushal? Mevushal means, right, to something which is going to be cooked. Yeah, cooked. So he's permitted in something which is roasted or something which is deeply cooked. Okay, that's what's actually brought down. Okay, fine. Next, if it's going to be now, Amar kunam tavshil shenitoim, a person comes and he says that the lashon of tafshil that he's going to eat, right? Now, usually a tafshil is mashma, anything which they actually eat with bread. So he says now what happens is it's going to be a sur b'Masechet Nedarim Daf umutar be'aveh umutar be'beitzat turmuta uzlat harmutza. So he's going to be permitted in anything which is going to be Masechet Nedarim Daf, right? Or in a kedera aveh, right? Or a beitzat turmita adlat harmutza. I think the Gemara is going to explain, right? The Gemara is going to explain all these types of lashonot, obviously. Because basically, so the fact that you went and you said it was a tafshil, it's mashma all those things that it's through a fire, but that it's eaten with the bread. So anything which is not, right, done through these things, so it's going to be permitted. Hanoder mima'aseh kedera and asur ma'aseh tichta. So he says, if you're going to say ma'aseh kedera, it means something which is going to be cooked for a long time. Okay, that they have to cook it a long time. Ma'aseh kedera means like the actions of a kedera, so it has to be a extensive cooking. Amar kunama yored. What did you call it?
Goulash.
Goulash. Okay, so goulash. Yeah. Next it says anoter. If somebody comes and he says kunama yored legdera she'eni toem asur b'chol mibashul gdera. If he says that anything which is goes into a pot, so then anything which is actually cooked in a pot is going to be prohibited for them. Says the Gemara. Tanya, we learned to the right. Rabbi Yoshia oser. Rabbi Yoshia comes and he's going to prohibit. If a person comes and he says mevushal, he prohibits the tzali as well. That means the second that you said this, is going to be prohibited also the tzali. Now, even though there's no proof to the matter, zecher ladavar, there is a zecher ladavar. Shneimar says in the pasuk, vayvashelu hapesach ba'esh kamishpat. What does that mean? They came and they cooked the Pesach on the fire, kamishpat. Now we know that the Pesach, can the Pesach be cooked? No. It says, right? It says that in Tzli right? It has to be Tzli. It cannot be any other form, which means it has to be Tzalui, or it has to be roasted. But the fact that it says, Vayvashlu et Pesach ba'esh kamishpat, so therefore he wants to say that Bishul is also tzali, and therefore the second that you mentioned, it's going to be prohibited. So says the Gemara, why don't we just say that the machlok between them is going to be that Rabbi Yoshia Savar, Rabbi Yoshia says Lashon Torah, we go after Lashon Torah. The Tana Dilan Savar, and our Tana holds in the Nedarim Lashon Bnei Adam, that by Nedarim we go after Lashon Bnei Adam, right? So says the Gemara, lo the Chule Alma really behemet Nedarim, we go after Lashon Bnei Adam. We do go after the Lashon of a human being. More kiatre, umor kiatre. Now, what happens is that each one is talking about minhag mekomo. What does that mean? Many times you have a minhag of a certain place. Be'atra de Tana Dilan, right? So in the city, right, of our Tana, letzli karu letzli, mushal karu lek mushal, right? Roasted is called roasted, cooked is called cooked. Be'atra of Yoshia, but the place of Yoshia, filu tzli is karu mushal. It's also going to be considered mevushal. Something just to show you how incredible it is. Do you know that there's a name Yankee? Yankee. Yeah? It's Yaakov. They call Yankees. Yeah, Yankee. Right? Like Yankiv. Right? Like Yankiv or Yankov. Right? There's a nun there, correct? In a get, how do you spell it? In a get. In a get, when you want to write a get, right? With an ayin, do you have to write the nun or without the nun? So it all depends whether they're Hasidim or Litaim. A Hasidi, automatically, when he says an ayin, the nun is already there. So when you say Yankee, right, the a right? The ayin, it already includes the nun in it. Right? So when you say Yankee, even though there's no nun physically there, automatically it's already there. By Litayim, Lithuanians, meaning Litvish, not Hasidim, you have to add the nun. So there was a whole problem that there was a Rabbi Hasidi that went and wrote for a Litai a get. So he wrote Yankee, Yud Ayin Kuf Yod. Yaki, right? Yaki, right? But really, there was missing a nun. But for him, automatically, that has a nun. But for a Litai, it doesn't automatically have a nun. So you have to actually add a nun. So it all depends, you see, from where a person is, how do you write a get? And it could actually make it pasul. Because it can make the get does not have the real name in it. You understand? So it's very, just to show you how it depends where you live or where you are, how it has an effect on what's going on. Huh? It could be posel the get, yes. Okay? So says the Gemara, the akrana sivla. Says 1 second. But here, how could Rabbi Yoshia has a pasuk also? So forget about now, right, that the pasuk called tzli mevushal. So if a person comes and prohibits himself mevushal, it includes tzli. So that's it. What's the problem then? So the answer is the Gemara asmachta be'alma. That's not the real meaning of the pasuk. We make an asmachta, meaning that it's like a hint from the pasuk, but it's not the real pasuk. Okay? Okay? Fine. Kunam tavshil. Yeah? Kunam tavshil. Right? So a person comes and he says he's not going to eat the tavshil. What is a tavshil? Masechet Nedarim, right? That's going to be, rach is going to be a sur, but aveh is going to be thick. Meaning a thick porridge is permitted. It's going to be soft, it's prohibited. Ask the Gemara, v'hami tavshil nadar. Just 1 second. But he was, right now, he made a neder against any type of a tavshil. So if he's going to prohibit himself any type of a tavshil, so therefore it should be prohibited. So answers the Gemara, Amar Abaye says, Haitana kol mide de mitachel barifta tavshil karle. According to this Tana, anything which is eaten with bread is called the tavshil. Meaning, if you eat it with bread, it's called the tavshil. If you don't eat it with bread, it's not called the tavshil. Right? That's what he comes and he says. Okay? Okay? So Abaye says that this Tana, the Tana of our Mishnah, okay? So ask the Gemara, והתניא we learned in the right hand on them is not תשיל אסור בכל מיני תשיל, ואסור בצלי ושלוק ומבושל ואסור ביטריות רכות, שולחים, right, שהחולין אוכלים בהם פיתן. So 1 second, but I thought we learned in the right hand that if somebody comes and he prohibits himself a tafshil, he's not allowed to eat any type of a tafshil. So he's not allowed to eat whether it's going to be roasted, shaluk. Shaluk is cooked for a long time. No, shaluk is opposite, cooked for a very, very long time. Mevushal, right, mevushal, asur bitriot rakot, druim ktanim, right, why? Because the cholin, ochlim bahem pitan. So ask the Gemara, any is it so? Rabbi Yirmiyah chalash. Rabbi Yirmiyah got sick. So there was a doctor that came in to cure him. So he saw Dlat that was in his house. So he left and he went outside. And he said, says, you guys have the malach hamavet in the house. So what, I'm going to go in? Imagine the doctor comes to heal him. He sees this small Dlat in the house. He says, you guys have the malach hamavet here, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to start curing. What does that mean? So it's mashma that this Dlat ktana, which is the hitriot rakot, right, was something bad actually. Okay? So answers the Gemara like a question. Ha berakiche ha beashune. It all depends whether it's a Dlat raka, which is good for cholim, or Dlat kasha, which is bad for the cholim. Means you see the same Dlat, if it's soft or it's hard, one could be good for a chole, and one could be bad for a chole. So Rava Bar Ula comes and he says, Ha bikra gufe, this is a Dlat itself, which means the Dlat itself is going to be bad for a chole, right? Veha begave dekara. And here we're talking about what's inside of the Dlat. Meaning even a pumpkin in itself, you have the outer layer, and then you have the inside. So it could be that the inside is good for it, but the outside is not good for it. It all depends on circumstances. The Amar of Yudah, but says of Yudah, Luliva tekra besilka. What's inside of the Dlat, when it's mevushal with selek, which with tered, right, with the spinach and all these things, is good for the cholim. Luliva de kitana, when we're talking about kutacha, but what it's inside of the pishtan, when it's going to be mevushal with the kutach, which is like the type of like a cream cheese type of thing, it's also good. But you're not allowed to say it in front of an ma'aretz. right? In order that he's not going to come and take out the tzemach pishtan in order to start using it for refuah. Okay, because then they would take it out even before the time of the ktsira, and because of that, it's it's going to be a problem because all of a sudden they're going to start plucking them out, and it's going to be a problem. Rava comes and he says, Man cholim, who are the ones which are cholim? He says Rabbanan, the Talmidei Chachamim. Why? Because since they're weak because they're learning Torah, so therefore that's what he said. The Kavanah, the Braita is teaching us Talmidei Chachamim, even the healthy ones, they eat their bread with lots, and not that they're mamash cholim, but rather this helps them in order to stay healthy. Because if not, it would be a problem. Rava goes according to his reasoning. Rava says, Memtet Amubet 49b. Like which ones of the Tanaim were praying every single day for the cholim and the chalushim, for the people that are sick and the people that are weak? Keman, Rabbi Yosef, like Rabbi Yosef. Right? What does that mean? That means basically they were saying that you could pray every single day, because according to Rabbi Yosef, a person is judged every day. Okay, according to the other opinions, a person is judged on Rosh Hashanah v'Gemar. But if you're going to be judged every single day, so it all depends on the circumstances. From the fact that it said cholim v'chalashim, shmamina, so we learn from here ketzireh is ketzireh mamash. That when it says cholim, it's cholim mamash, and when it says miniyeh, it's chalashim mamash, right? Which is going to be the rabbanan, the rabbis. Okay, so says the Gemara, umutar be'aveh, right? That it's going to be mutar with the tafshil, which is going to be aveh, a thick food. So he says matzritin is loka bavlai. It's not like the Babylonians, right? Damar bi zera, says bi zera, bavlai tipshae, foolish Babylonians. Yeah. The achla lachma.
Mordechai, אני בזום, והרב מאושר.
One more time. Why are they foolish? Because they're eating bread with bread. You understood? Bread with bread. It says here, ochlim lechem belechem. Why? Because they used to eat like daisa, which is very, very thick, right? Which is basically like a porridge, a thick porridge. They would eat it with bread. So it's like, Iowa, you're eating bread is made out of wheat. The daisa is like a porridge which is made out of wheat. So they're eating bread with bread. What are you guys doing? I'm saying you're going to eat. Exactly. Yeah. You're right, but that's what he says. Tipshaye, the foolish people. They're eating bread with bread. No, because you don't eat cholent, which is thick with porridge. You're going to eat it with bread as well. That's already the bread. You don't need to. Amar Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta. Ya'ika demashil lehon lehalen nagdane deutzal. So he says, if you're going to come and ask somebody, which is medaktekim b'ma'achalam, that they are in the city of Utzal, haden daisa, this daisa that you eat with bread. Right? What is the best to eat it with? Dechite belachme dechite. Is it going to be the daisa with chitim, with bread which is made out of chitim, meaning the daisa of chitim, the porridge of chitim, of wheat with the bread which is made out of chitim, utzare belachme desare, or of barley with barley, or dilma dechite besare, or maybe you switch it up. You eat barley bread with the daisa of chitim, and you eat wheat bread with the daisa of barley. So Rava achle, right, bechasise. Rabbi used to eat his bread with a daisa, which is made out of kemach of klayot, which is basically toasted kernels, toasted wheat. Rabbi Baravuna, ashkechel Ravuna dekachi daisa betzbete. So he went and he found that he was eating daisa with his fingers. Elmaleh, he says, why are you eating with your hands? Elmaleh, he says, Hachi Amar Rav, this is what Rav says, daisa betzbete is seen. That the daisa, which is eating with your fingers, is actually sweet. V'chol dechem betartin, or the more so if you're eating with 2 fingers. And the more so even with 3 fingers. You understand? So he comes and he says, so Amaleh Rav Lechia Berei. So Rav comes and he tells Chia to his son, right? Also Ravuna right to Rabbi's son. Right? If they come and they tell you, come and eat daisa, parsa, you should go up to a parsa to come and eat it. If they're going to tell you to get a good, meat, good steak, right? Atlata parsin, go 3 parsaot. Right? That means basically depends what's on the menu. If it's daisa, you only go 1 parsa. Yeah. If it's a good piece of meat, yeah, you're going to go until 3 parsa. Yeah? Remember, 1 parsa is no, a mil is 960 meters, just under a kilometer. That's 1 mil. A parsa is 4 mil. Right? What we learned again. It's not miles, kilometers. because it's either 960 meters or 1.052 kilometers. That's a chazonish. Grachnai and chazonish. So since it's like that, so if it's better to say it's a kilometer than a mile, even though it sounds like mile. Yeah. But it's really more a kilometer than a mile.
So it's 4 miles, which is
like around
135 kilometers.
Yeah, it's let's say miles. So Elmaleh Rav Lechia Berei. So comes Rav and he tells Lechia to his son. V'chen Elmaleh Rav Huna Rabbi Berei. Also Rav Huna told his Rabbi his son. Kol mida'am, anything of food, right? Lo tiflo kamer rabach. That means, for example, anything that you ate, and all of a sudden, because you ate that food, it causes a saliva. So he says, don't spit it out in front of your rabbi, but rather you have to swallow it. Okay? Except for levar min kra v'daisa, except for the rock, which is formed right from the dalat and daisa. You have to spit it out even in front of him. Because why? Because they are difficult. They are like a plum. How do you say plum? They're like a lead, right? You understand the ptila of oferet. Oferet is lead, right? What does that mean? Even in front of a king, pelot, you have to spit it out. That means you're not going to pay attention to the kvod malchut and also spit it out because it's too much. You understand? It's not good. It's very dangerous. So therefore, usually you should always spit out the rock. It's in front of your rabbi, you have to have some respect. But he says, but if this is the rock of this, you spit it out, whether it's in front of your rabbi, even in front of the king. Doesn't matter. You're going to spit it out because it could kill a person, right? It's dangerous. Okay? Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, achad achil daisa betzvate, v'chad achil behutza. So one of them, he came and he ate, right, with the fingers. This is Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda. One of them ate the daisa with his fingers, and one of them, he actually ate it with the klipat ha'etz, right? That's with the hutza. Basically, you eat it with the utensil. So the one that was eating it with a utensil went and he told the one that was eating it with his fingers, when are you going to come and you're going to start giving me to eat your tzuah? Meaning many times under the fingers, right, under the fingernails, right, when a person's wiping himself, you can have tzuah, right? Tzuah. So that's it's brought down in right? Excrement. Right? So therefore, in
אבל עושים את זה ביד שמאל.
Right? But doesn't matter, but it's still under the ma'akeshet, but it's still with your etzma, right?
ביד ימין.
Ma'akeshet, but if you're eating right now, it could be under your nails. So the problem is, the halakha brings down, soa mitachat ha'tzipornaim, if it's going to be chotzetz or not. So he comes and he says, until when are you going to come? You're going to give me to eat from your tzoah. So Elmaleh, the achil betzpatel, the achil beutza, ad matay tamachilenu rokecha. Fine, but until when are you going to come and you're going to give me to eat your rock? Which means the shidiyot of the rock, right, which is on the klipat ha'etz. Meaning each one was coming and saying, fine, right, I'm eating with my fingers, right, and therefore you might have tzoah underneath the thing. But you're coming and you're giving me your rock also, because you're eating from the spoon, right, and it's a double, because they're both eating from the same thing, from the same daisa. So Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, Aitu lekame belufsin. So Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, they came in front of him to lufsin, right? This place, yeah. Actually, it says here there are te'anim belufsin, which are very difficult very bad for the digestion. That's what it says over here. Yeah. Okay. So he says Rabbi Yehuda achal, Rabbi Shimon lo achal. So Rabbi Yehuda ate them. Rabbi Shimon didn't eat them. Elmaleh Rabbi Yehuda comes and he tells him, why didn't you eat it? Elmaleh Rabbi Shimon says, Elu. These ones are so bad, it doesn't even come out of the intestines. So Rabbi Yehuda says, so the more so then, right? Why? Because since they're not going to be digested, so therefore all the time that they're there, it's going to be even better. So therefore, it's going to give us a parnasa, not only for today, also for tomorrow. It's going to keep on, right? By the way, that's what certain animals, they eat, and it stays in their stomachs for a few days, which actually helps them. They're able to actually.
That's not us.
I know that. Yeah, 100%. What? Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda was in front of Rabbi Tarfon. Elmaleh Rabbi Tarfon says Rabbi Tarfon, Hayom panecha tzuvin. You ever saw that? Once in a while, somebody comes in and they look like, with a shine on their face. Yeah, so he says Hayom panecha tzuvin. Elmaleh, he says, Emesh yatzu avadecha lasadeh ve'viu lanu tradim. He says, you know what happened? Yesterday, your servants went out and they went to the field and they brought us tradim. And what happens? We ate it without salt. So he said, but if we would have eaten it with salt, our faces would have been even lighter, would have been mamash even shining, illuminating even more.
They want to tell that it's very healthy.
Yes. Right? So now he comes and he says, Amra hi matronita, there was a matronita. Remember, matronita is one of the wives of these Roman, hierarchies, right? So she went and she told her Yehuda, more verave, right? What? You're a more ora'ah and you're getting drunk? Meaning that how could you come and be paskening halachot and you're going to be mishtaked? Which means how could you even want to paskin? So Amaleh, he told her, hemanuta, right? Bida de'ahi iteta, right? So he's actually swearing in her kavod kilu. Lashon shavua is hemanuta, right? In her. He says, you know what I drink? The only thing that I drink is kiddush, havdalah, and the 4 kosot of Pesach. That's the only thing that I do. However, though, I have to come and I have to put something around my head from Pesach until Shavuot in order to get off the headaches because of the drinking of the wine on the night of Pesach. So just to understand, I mean, he said, what, you think I drink? He sorts of, I don't drink. Look what I drink. Kiddush, Avdalah, and the 4 kosot. That's it.
The question is, how come she came to
right? The Rabbi says that she thought the face was shining. So she thought that he drank. She thought that he drank, because when a person drinks, right, we have that a lot of times. People drink and all of a sudden their faces are all, they're all jolly, they're all, like that. So you think, what's going on? You understand? She saw him like that. So what happened? So she thought that, you understand? She thought that he was drunk. So he says, what? You're getting drunk? What's going on? No. What happened was, really be'emet, he was happy, naturally happy. You don't need to drink to be happy.
No, without melech.
Exactly. That was without the melech. Imagine with the melech, it would have been even better. Okay? Fine. Ela, chokhmat adam ta'ir panav. You know what that means? The chokhmah of a human being are going to illuminate the face. I mean, you don't need to drink, right? Some people think in the be'emet, some people think that you need to drink to be happy. I once told the person, why do you need to drink to be happy? Happiness comes naturally, right? What are you doing? It's kilu, you want to run. If you're healthy, so it's good. But if I have to give you steroids in order to run, that's not a good thing. You understand? I mean, that's a bad thing. That means really be'emet, you cannot do it. And you need the steroid to help you. So the same thing. Now you're going to come, you're going to need to drink. You don't need to drink to be happy. You should be naturally happy. You understand? That's the way it is. Okay? So he comes. Ma? So he says, Elmaleh ahu tzedoki Rabbi Yehuda. There was a tzedoki that he comes and he said to Rabbi Yehuda, Panecha domim kimlave rebit. Your face is compared to the people that they lend with rebit. Why? Because they're so happy. They're making so much money, right? And they don't have to work. Imagine right now I come and I lend out money and I'm making 6-7% on returns. I could be with my feet up, enjoy myself. Yeah, exactly. Enjoy myself. Right? It's good. Or even lechazirim, or maybe lechazirim, but they also make a lot of money. Elmaleh, he says, he says, the Jews are prohibited in 2 things. They cannot lend with a rebit, and they cannot be megadel lechazirim. I have 24 washrooms from my house until the Bet HaMidrash. Do you know, I go inside every single one. Meaning, I go in every single washroom. So therefore, I'm always happy. Well, I'm always happy. I relieve myself, so I'm happy. Yeah, David?
And he washes his hands.
Yes, and that's why he's panav meirot. That's why panav meirot. Rabbi Yehuda kadazi lebe midrash. When Rabbi Yehuda used to go to the Bet HaMidrash, shakal gulfa al katfe. He used to take a kankan on top of his shoulders in order to come and sit on it. Right? Why? But that way I don't have to sit on the ground. I could sit in on a thing in the Bet HaMidrash. I could sit on a utensil. Rabbi Shimon shakal tzana al katfe. Rabbi Shimon, he took a basket, right, on his shoulders, right? And he said, Vitu Rabbi Yehuda nafakt naktat amra. So the wife of Rabbi Yehuda, she went out once and she purchased semer. She purchased wool in the marketplace. Abda glima deutve. And she went and she made a very important, dress, a very important glima. Kanafak leshuka mikaseve. So she always used to put it on when she used to go to the shuk. Kanafik Rabbi Yehuda litzaruri. So Rabbi Yehuda used to go out to pray. Mikasa used to cover himself and he used to pray. And he said, Baruch she'atani mi'in. Baruch Hashem that I have this meaning. So once Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Rashbag, he made a tanit, And Rabbi Yehuda did not come to the Ta'anit. Amrile, they told him, Loit le kisuye, says what? Eli begelit kasot. Shada, right? Let glima velo kabil. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he went and he sent Rabbi Yehuda beged, but he didn't want to accept it. Yeah, he didn't want to accept it. I guess it was not the same type of you know, he didn't want to accept it. I'm not sure exactly why. Here it says he didn't have anything, or because his wife was wearing it at the time, or because he was embarrassed to go with a beged which was miyuchad also for his wife. Meaning it wasn't a clothing only for women; it was a unisex clothing that could have been used for both. Okay, and therefore it says dali tzipta, right? So he via et machzelet, which was on top of it, and there was a nes that all of a sudden there was matbeot shel zahav. So he went and he told the shliach of the nasi, chazi ma'ika, right? Look at the osher that there is here. Right? That means if I wanted to know that I could buy for myself a chaluk, I would have done it. But I don't want him to come, and I don't want to benefit from this world, and therefore I don't want that Sabra that he's going to come and he's going to, give me a new jacket. And we continue with Zat Hashem tomorrow.